guys, welcome back to the HCG Diet Interviews with Everyday People. I have Nikki with me today. We're going to be talking all about her journey with P3 to Life, the Phase 3 Stabilization Program for after you finish Phase 2, which if you want to find more info about that, it's at p3tolife.com. And also we'll talk about a little bit about her HCG journey too, just why she needed to lose weight and just different things like that. There's a lot we can learn both from, I think, successes and from struggles. So anyway, welcome, Nikki.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being with me.
I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah, me too. Hold on, I have to take my earrings off. They're like making crackling sounds. All right.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so tell me, maybe you could just give us a little bit of background, like on just your basic stats, if you don't mind, whatever you mind sharing of yourself, just like age and height and like your starting and ending weight with maybe currently with HCG and such.
Sure. Okay, so I'm 34 at this time, and when I first did HCG, it was in 2015. So I think I was 31. It was before my birthday. So it was a couple of years ago that I did my first round. I'm 5'4.5". I currently weigh 143. I didn't weigh myself today, but in the beginning of my HCG journey, so my numbers are going to be kind of misrepresentative of what I've done in between, but my highest weight was like 155, I think, 154. Okay. Not
Gotcha.
that much higher.
Sure.
Yeah. But if it helps at all, so part of my struggle and what brought me to HCG was that I had thyroid cancer when I was 28. And so in the course of that year, or after I lost my thyroid, I had it taken out in surgery. I lost weight initially, I think just because of the stress. Yeah. It started before I had surgery, but then I went down from my usual body weight in the past was 139. Shortly after my thyroid cancer experience, I went down to 126 without trying.
Wow.
And then when I started on, so I was 126 as of the end of 2011. So I had, my cancer experience was, let's say, 6 months. And after that point, when they adjusted my thyroid medication to get to TSH suppression, which was at the time the goal to prevent thyroid cancer recurrence, I guess it did something to my adrenals, I'm assuming, where I really quickly gained 25 pounds plus, which stuck. So in the course of the year, I went up to over 150, and I had trouble moving from that point at all.
Wow.
So that brought me to HCG. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, when you were, so with the cancer, they removed your thyroid. Mm-hmm. And then you lost weight initially. When you talked about the TSH suppression thing, so were they giving you thyroid medication to replace your thyroid, but then reducing it so that you?
Yeah. Well, with the TSH suppression, they essentially, and now this isn't the treatment guideline anymore. So if I got thyroid cancer today, they probably wouldn't do the same things with me as they did, but they give you a high enough dose to actually make it appear that you're hyperthyroid on your labs.
Wow.
Yeah, so they suppress your TSH so that it's like 0.00 something, but your thyroid hormones themselves don't actually go up. So like, for example, my total T3 at the time was like 20 points below the range.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's kind of bizarre how your labs look after. Yeah. But at that point, I guess my body was in such disarray that weight gain started. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't have a functioning thyroid really anymore, and then if the medication's all messed up, wow, that's crazy. And that's not even that long ago. You're saying that they wouldn't do it that way now, just like 5 or 6 years later.
Yeah, it's scary to say, but they updated the treatment guidelines. They wouldn't even have probably given me, I got like more than double the dose of radioactive iodine than they would give someone today. I mean, it is a little bit, I hate to think about that.
You're like a little guinea pig. You were.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that.
Gosh, and you were so young. Do they know why, at such a young age that you got thyroid cancer? Did they have any idea?
It's actually quite common that it hits mostly women and mostly that are in their 20s. Um,
Wow.
you know, it for in my case, I suspect it might have to do with radiation exposure.
Really?
Unfortunately, in college, I mishandled some chemicals in a chemistry class, in an organic chemistry class, and I always like when I realized I did that, it was 8 years prior. I remember
Yeah.
thinking to myself, "Wow, you know, I'm gonna get cancer in my hands one day," and it was a halobromide. Apparently, that's a chemical that's similar to fluoride, and so it goes right to
Yes.
the thyroid.
Oh my
So I may have done this to
gosh.
myself, but they really don't know. I mean, it's because
Yeah.
unfortunately it is that common that people get
Yeah.
it without knowing why.
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow, that's so crazy. Thanks for sharing that. How did you know that, like, was it just routinely found with lab testing, or were you actually feeling bad or?
Yeah, you know, for me, it was sort of an incidental finding. I happened to have, I mean, I'm sure my body was freaking out. I passed out in my apartment and they
Oh,
thought it was, I sort of just had to do investigation of why I passed out. And part of it included doing an echocardiogram. So they were, you know, looking to see if it was a heart thing, you know, and in scanning up my neck, they were very thorough. They just so happened to see a tumor. And so I got more,
wow.
you know, testing and then found out it was actually cancer, which did cause
Wow.
me to pass out, but that was found because I happened to just faint.
Yeah, so you're just
Yeah.
kind of lucky in that way. Wow, my
Yeah.
gosh, that's crazy. Are there stages of thyroid cancer like other stages of other cancers?
Yeah. So the particular type I had is papillary thyroid cancer. That's the most common. It's staged differently than other cancers. So even if you've had some spread, if you're young, like at my age, it did spread to a parathyroidal node. So it's like a little teeny lymph node around the thyroid, which
Yeah,
they don't really consider like metastases. But even if it metastasized to a different node in my neck, they'd still
yeah,
consider it stage one. But
okay.
if you're over 45, I believe, they would stage it as stage three. So it's age dependent, kind of.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, it's really its own animal.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so you've been through a lot then. So
It's been,
today, I'm just curious now, so do you take like a thyroid medication now? Like,
yeah, I will have to for life. It's kind of the way if you're type 1 diabetic and you need to inject insulin to make up for the
right,
fact
because you
that
don't have a thyroid.
yeah.
Gotcha. So I'm curious, do you mind sharing what medication you take?
Sure. I mean, it's changed a bunch over the past few years. I started on Synthroid like everybody gets started on, and
Yeah,
I did very poorly on that. Um, and later on, because of financial reasons, I've tried to cycle that back in, even if as part of my regimen for some T4. I don't absorb it well. I just cannot break the tablet down. So currently, I take Nature Throid,
okay.
which I was lucky enough to have hoarded some because it's been on back order for a while.
Oh,
Um, yeah, Nature Throid and Tyrosine. So I take a combo.
but what tyrosine, isn't that just like a supplement?
Oh,
Tyrosine?
Tyrosine is
Oh,
it's like it's T4, so it's like Synthroid, but
okay.
it's what's it called? It's in like a liquid gel cap
Gotcha.
instead of being a tablet. Yeah, and it's
Gotcha.
gluten free, so I'm
Good.
allergic to that.
You're allergic to gluten. That's good that you figured that out.
Yeah, it's been a
Wow.
process.
So yeah, Nature Throid. Do you feel fairly okay on that?
For the first time, I can say I feel what I think is normal, what I think I'm supposed to feel. Um, and the last round that I did with HCG, which was the most effective and sustained, which I will give credit to the P3 to Life program for a lot of that uh, in many different ways. But I had to decrease my dosage. I started getting palpitations during during the P2 phase, and so I okayed it with my doctor and I decreased a little bit. But I do have to take it for life, obviously, for survival. But
Right, yeah.
I have less of a body to sustain now, so
Right. That's
yeah.
good. That's good. Yeah, for you guys who don't know, Nature Throid, it's a type of like a natural, it's called desiccated thyroid. where it's from like animal natural sources. And what's nice about it is that instead of being like there's different thyroid hormones in your body. There's the storage form of thyroid hormone, which is T4, as Nikki was mentioning. There's T3, which is active thyroid hormone, and that's what is actually doing the stuff in your body that's like your metabolism. So and then there's even other things like calcitonin and different things like that. So natural thyroid, like the brand she's using is Nature Thyroid. There's other ones too. It's supposed to kind of replace all of the natural things that your body would usually make in the right ratios. So a lot of people do find that that's a better type of medication for them a lot of times than just T4 medication, which, like you mentioned, Synthroid is what most people going to any like regular doctor is going to be put on for low thyroid. But as you said, a lot of people have trouble converting that into T3 because your body, the storage form, that's what you're taking. Your body can't actually use it until it's converted into T3. And a lot of people have trouble with that. Their body just doesn't really convert it well. So then that's why they could like take more and more of the T4 Synthroid and still not really feel any better. So if any of you guys out there are on Synthroid and if like feel like they said my levels are optimal and I still just feel pretty much tired all the time, you might research that and check into that. And I even actually have a blog post about that. I'll link to it in the show notes for you guys too, okay, for researching hormones and some good sites for that. So thank you for sharing all that. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, that's really helpful stuff. So anyway, so all of this crazy stuff happened and it sounds like you were at a fairly healthy weight for previous to this then for a while. Is that right?
Yeah, so I wasn't, I mean, I thought I was at too high of a weight. It's funny, like I would have, after thyroid cancer, like when I went up to the 150s, the idea of getting back to 139, which was this weight that I thought was not a good weight for my height. And, I was like, you know what, I wouldn't give to be back at what I was before,
Right.
yeah. And I guess, I'm average height, but I think even if I put on a couple of pounds, like 2 pounds, 3 pounds, you can really see it on me. So I guess it was sort of like an identity shift to gain into the 150s. I dance as well. Like I was doing performance and singing backup. So I had to be in front of people.
Yeah.
And it just like, I don't know, psychologically, I think it really did more damage. And the fact that I tried many things to try to lose weight. Like I did MetaFast. I tried everything that you could without HCG that was somewhat extreme.
Yeah.
And, most people talk about it's hard to maintain weight. Like it's easy to lose it, but hard to maintain. But in my case, I couldn't even lose it. And so
Wow.
I just sort of was like, what is wrong with me? So that's how I knew about HCG and I was very scared. And I just, kept researching for like maybe a year or two before I actually did it. And that first time when I did it in 2015, I found you online. So I learned how to inject it by looking at your videos. Yeah, you've actually been sort of along my journey with me without knowing it.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, so I mean, I learned a lot. I did really well my first round, and I went from like 155-ish, maybe it was 156, down to 130 or 131
Wow.
in 30 days. And
Wow.
yeah, I felt great. The thing is that during that time, my mom had a stroke and it was very significant.
Wow.
And I got a new job. And so we had a 4-day training during my P3 time before your P3 to Life program existed. And I gained back like 8 to 10 pounds in that 4-day period because I didn't
Wow.
follow P3. Even when
Yeah.
it was maybe in 2 days, it was rapid beyond what a normal human should be able to gain.
Yeah.
And it just continued. I went all the way back up. So I
Oh,
botched that whole thing.
I've done that.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Your videos helped me psychologically with that too. Because I was like,
Good.
well,
Like it
yeah,
happens.
because you went through it, but then you kept going and you got
Yeah.
there.
I really have found like in all facets of life, honestly, like you guys, like when you mess up and like things just totally get completely botched, it's like it can be easy to think that like that's it, there's no way around it, or for this particular aspect of your life you're not gonna like overcome the thing. But I've learned like troubleshooting works. It really does. Like, okay, what went wrong? Why? What can I do different next time? Make a plan. And when you do, like, it works. It's worked for lots of things, not even just for weight loss and HCG for me. Like even stuff with, you know, like making phase 2 recipes, for instance, for the new blog that I'm doing. Like I ran into some issues, and then like I was like feeling discouraged, and then I'm like, okay, hold on, don't just like feel like it's not going to work. Go back, do some research, figure out what the problems are, what are the possible solutions, research, and now things are going great with it. So it's like it does work, but it's sometimes when you're like in that space of where everything's just all messed up, it can be so discouraging, you know? Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, cool. So, all right. So I was curious when you said you tried so many other diets and none of them worked outside of HCG. Like, so would you just lose like a little bit of weight at first and then stop losing, or how was that? I'm
I
just
wouldn't
curious.
even lose weight.
Really?
Like I would, and even with things that, like there's this 4-day detox diet from Carrie Glassman, who's a dietitian I respect. I'd done her 4-day thing in the past. Everyone, she even puts it like out there. Everyone loses 5 pounds. Like you can lose water weight even.
Yeah, water weight at least, right?
I wouldn't even lose water weight.
Wow.
So I guess when you repeatedly, I mean, I tried so many times that I think it brought my confidence to a zero, you know?
Totally.
And even to be honest, like why I'm at my current weight today is that even though I gave it the good college try and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do HCG again. I didn't really have the belief that I could do it. I didn't really think I'd have the success. Even though I saw myself lose weight that first time where I botched P3, this last time that I did in August or July through August, I didn't really do it that well. I mean, and what I mean by that is I didn't stick to the protocol. I went rogue in non-planned, inappropriate ways.
Yeah.
And yet, I was happy that my weight was able to budge again from 154. This time it went all the way down to like 136, but then I hovered and my last injection weight was 139.6. So I was at my pre-thyroid cancer weight,
That's awesome.
which and it's not my ultimate goal, but I was really happy to be there. And honestly, I stayed at that exact decimal point weight from my last injection, which I think was either the last day of August of this year, or the first week of September. I stayed there until the week of Thanksgiving when I went off the rails. And so now I know what I cannot do, but and I gained like 4 pounds, which I'm stuck at currently. But really, like, so I think it could have been better. I have to say, I think that I kept my weight though at the LIW because of P3 to life, your plan, which also I think gave me confidence, even though I didn't do P2 well. And now I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to commit to doing it properly,
Yeah.
and but it built the confidence that I needed that this actually can work and be sustainable. Because that's the part, I think when in the back of your mind, when you've gained weight back, you think, well, okay, I'm going to do this and it's going to be hard and I'll see my weight go down and then I'm going to see it go back up, and you kind of have this jaded knowledge.
Right.
So your plan in my first try, which I'm going to do it again to the T, I needed to see that, like that, wow, okay, what I've lost for the most part, even though I'm sustaining, I guess, 11 pounds off of the overall 15 pounds I lost, like I needed to know that that's possible. And I'm really glad, that that part has stuck off,
That's good. Yeah. No, I mean, everything is a learning experience, so, and things don't always go perfectly every time. But yeah, so thanks for sharing that about like, because I have had a lot of other ladies considering HCG that they're like, well, I've tried every diet and it doesn't work. And so they're wondering if HCG will work because they're like, well, diets don't work for me, even with, like you said, extreme calorie restriction detox where you're having only water or just cucumber juice or something. You're like, but it sounds like you tried all those things and didn't even really lose water weight.
Yeah.
But then
I
with
did a bone broth fast for like 4 days for digestive reasons because I had SIBO, and so I was trying to eradicate it.
Yeah.
Even then, 4 days of broth, I lost nothing.
Oh my gosh, that must be so frustrating.
It was crazy. Yeah.
Man. So then when you did your first round of HCG, you lost like 25 pounds, right?
Yeah.
155 to 130. I mean, whoa.
Yeah. It
That's
was
amazing.
insane. Yeah.
So it did. So you guys, like, for if you've tried all these other diets, like this is one of many interviews of ladies saying that they've tried all these different well-known diets that usually work for other people and didn't work for them, and then somehow HCG with the hormone, it's different because you did use injections too, right?
I did.
Yeah. So
Yep.
it's different too. Interesting. Okay, well that's okay. So that's really good. So we've talked about that aspect of things. So I'm curious now with the whole. So you mentioned like your first P3 was a total wash, and you gained back stuff right away and everything. So I'm curious, like with P3 to life, like did you like, okay, so for instance, when you were doing those 3 weeks for the stabilization, did you have any correction days while you were following P3 to life?
Nope, not one.
Wow, that's awesome. And so what were your overall results with P3 to life? Like where were you again, your LIW, and then where were you towards the end there?
Oh my gosh, I was literally to the decimal the same. I mean, I fluctuated a teeny bit in the middle, but I was 139.6 and I ended at 139.6. 21 days, start and end were the same. And then beyond the 21 days, like for a few months, I was right there too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so great. Yeah. And I'm assuming though that you still like it's so cool that you were like the same weight on the last day of P3, but I'm assuming that there are, because it's normal to have some weight fluctuations. So just keep things real for people during that period. Were there days you were a little up and a little down throughout the 3 weeks?
Yeah, there were. I mean, there were some. I also, in P3, I started attending a boot camp 3 days a week, which I think definitely contributed, because part of that, I ended that boot camp 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And that's when I gained this 3 or 4 pounds. So, so I'm sort of thinking that does play a role, because I know you do CrossFit and advocate, intense exercise, and I'm with you, because I think for my body, I shouldn't have stopped that. So I'm going to try to reinitiate that. But yeah, if you want, I can send you, I kept record of my daily weights in your P2 handbook on my phone. So I can email you a screenshot of that if you wanted to include it in the show notes. I'm happy to share.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. And you know why? Because even like me, I used to not know that it was normal, like outside of actually maybe gaining a few pounds. I didn't used to know that it was normal to have your weight fluctuate from day to day within like maybe 2 or 3 pounds. Some women might be even a slightly larger range depending on how you genetically retain water. But yeah, so like now I'm used to it. So for me, it's like pretty much I'm always between 124 and 127, and anywhere in there, like I never worry ever. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I am up 1.5 today. Like if I know that I'm eating the way that works for me, I never freak out over that. And then the next day it's down a pound, and then it's up 3/4 of a pound, and it's down. You know what I mean? Like that's totally a normal thing. So during the 3 weeks of phase 3, you did have some fluctuations like that too, right? A little bit?
Little bitty ones. Yeah, it was an extreme. I think I went down as low as 136.6 after boot camp day. So the next day I was lower.
Gotcha.
And then I think I might have gone to like 140 point something. But it really didn't jump ever more than 1 or 1.8 above my LIW.
Good. And you knew that was safe because you're like, hey, I'm in the 2 pound window. Like, I don't think it is working. So that's really, really cool to hear that. And that's interesting too, that you would actually lose weight after a workout, because I actually will gain after a workout day. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I think I might have sweated so much that I was probably like just fluid depleted or
Yeah,
something.
I don't, it's just, our bodies are all so unique, you guys. So
Yeah.
sometimes you might lose after workout, but sometimes you might gain, and it's not fat. It's just like, for me, I actually retain water, I think, from sore muscles and such.
Yeah.
So it's good
I
to,
think that's more common. I think so. That's normal. That
you're like a little anomaly. You're just your own package. But you know what, that's, some people are like that though. So it's good to hear that experience, you know. So how many days a week were you exercising on P3 again?
Just 3 days. It
Three
was
days.
very intense,
It's
like
perfect.
extreme, but yeah,
Yeah,
3 days. Yeah.
that's really good. Did you do that for your whole P3?
I think I started 3 weeks in. Oh, I'm sorry, because I did P3 for a longer time than 3 weeks. So that's why I'm like,
Yeah,
I
sure.
think I started September 25th. So I was at the end of P3. So actually, okay, my memory's
So
bad,
you
but
had
that's
time to
good.
kind of actually stabilize without the exercise first, and then you added in the exercise, which a lot of people like to do just because they don't want in that added variable. Because like, as we just
Yeah.
discussed, you may have a gain, but it won't be fat, but then you'll be all freaked out because you're like, ah. So,
Yeah. It actually
okay.
made me remember. So, like for folks that want to exercise during P2, I
Yes.
actually took a tester class. They recommended I did that before signing up for the boot camp.
Yeah.
And I forgot I was on my last 2 days of HCG. So I took the tester class
Yeah.
and I felt like I was going to die because it was
Oh,
so intense that I didn't make it home. I had to go, my grandma lived closer and I went to stay at her house. But then, so actually that helps me place it. I think I started the exercise 2 weeks into P3. So I did,
gotcha.
and that's when I noticed I actually lost weight the next day because of it. But
Gotcha. And that is,
yeah,
like you said, a good reminder, because there's a lot of questions about that. Like, can I exercise on P2? Should I exercise on P2? Will it make my results better? And while it is very individual, I'll link you guys in the show notes. I have actually a whole like long comprehensive article on exercising on HCG that you can, you know, just read over. There's basically, I list the pros and cons, the concerns, and, you know, different people who it's worked for, who it hasn't. But it is something you want to be cautious about, because you're already doing something really extreme with your body, like being on such a low calorie diet. It's kind of like a cleanse, and typically, like if you look at any type of cleanse, it's always recommended to like take it easy on your body, rest more, maybe stretch. Like, it's like you're supposed to be low key when you do a cleanse. And so this is kind of the same scenario for a lot of people, just because even if you initially feel okay, which, like Nikki, you said you didn't feel good when you did, because, you know, a lot of these classes are really intense. I do an intense workout.
yeah.
I did the same thing. I tried to keep CrossFitting, actually. I think it was my 4th round.
Mhm.
Yeah, I went to, like, the first few days of the low calorie, I went to CrossFit like 1 or 2 days, and I felt horrible. First of all, like, I had no energy. And for me, I don't know about you guys, like, or you, Nikki, but when I get really like so exhausted, like I feel like everything's been sucked out of me, instead of going to bed, which is what I should do, I feel like just eating the whole house. Like, I'll just eat.
Yeah, yeah. Your
So
body's trying to compensate.
yeah, and that's horrible to feel that way when you're on P2. So
Yeah,
it's like,
that's
so
right.
that would happen to me. And then I actually had a stall for like 10 days, which is very uncommon to not lose weight at the beginning of an HC round. I mean, that's pretty much, usually if that happens, something's wrong.
Oh
So
man.
that was weird too. Like, I didn't lose any weight for like a week and a half after that. And so that made me think, like, you know what? I think I kind of like freaked my body out and like overdid it and like expected too much, and then it like rebelled for a period of
Oh man.
time. That's my guess. So
Oh no.
yeah, so just, you know, so it's just food for thought, you guys. That, and even if you do feel good, there is just, the problem is like sometimes your adrenals can handle like so much, because the
Mhm.
protocol, even though it's so awesome, you guys know how much I believe in it, but it is still a stress to your body. So if you just pile on like too many stresses all at once, it's like it may handle it up to a point, but then you could be experiencing adrenal fatigue later that you kind of caused from doing too much. And so then, like in P3, or just next time you try to do a round, you might actually be feeling really run down, and that could add to that. So that's just why I'm personally, like, I know there's other coaches out there who are really gung-ho on exercise with HCG, but I feel like for women especially, we're really sensitive to like adrenal fatigue and taxing our body. And so I feel like often it's better to be cautious when it comes to that. So anyway, sorry, that was my soapbox.
That was awesome.
Anyway, so okay, cool. And I love that you said you did the 3 days for your boot camp, because I think that's actually a very balanced way to do exercise. I only do 3 days a week myself, and I feel like that's plenty, So yeah, that's really cool. So now with P3 to Life, there's the simplified plan, the original plan, and then there's like kind of a build your own for people who are just like, I don't really have time to do recipes right now. So what did you end up doing? Share just how, because since it worked for you, I'm always like, whether someone was strict to it or kind of creatively made it their own, I love to hear like what they did. So
yeah, well, you know what? I prepared for it like maybe the week before I was starting P3. I looked at the list that you had for, some tools that I really wasn't cooking before. So part of it, your plan kind of taught me about batch cooking. It really kind of, I'm serious that it taught me how to cook. I'm not a chef. So my usual eating pattern would be to like have eggs and vegetables for dinner because I can put it in a pan. So, I didn't buy all the tools, but I made sure, okay, you know what, I'll have the minimum. I like how you wrote it out. So folks know that they don't need to get everything.
yes.
And I got some of the seasonings and like nutritional yeast and whatnot, things that I would need to get on Amazon that I couldn't get at the store near me.
Cool.
Yeah, and then at first what I did, I went through the week 1 menus and I was trying to decide, do I do the simplified or the regular? I sort of did a combination, to be honest, because I mostly did simplified, but there was a couple recipes that I wanted to try from the full week that weren't on there. So like I still made a mug bread for breakfast, or maybe I'm not sure which one of the breakfasts is not on the simplified plan, for example, but
I don't remember either.
yeah. So but it might have been the mug bread. This is the week 1.
Sure.
So I put that in there, but for the most part I tried to not intimidate myself so much for my first week at this try, and I did essentially the simplified plan. And I was, at the times, I live with my boyfriend in a studio. We both work from home, and so I'm not there right now, but I'm usually with someone around all the time. And during P3, he was out of town, so it could have been that I totally botched it just because I'm alone, but it was so much fun to me. I'm not someone, I definitely wouldn't cook for just myself. To try out all this batch cooking, like, so part of it was it was just exciting to have sort of a new thing to put my attention to and to learn. But yeah, so I made those recipes in bulk and they were amazing, and they made me feel proud enough about it that I really wanted to share the recipe. So I was like prepping, like, what am I going to cook when my boyfriend comes back? And I've kind of reused the week 1 recipes a lot, even though they're in the in the lower calorie zone.
Yeah.
But they're just so good that I feel like they're permanent staples of my life now. Yeah.
Good. And plus you could always eat more of them, if you needed to raise the calories.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
how did you feel about like the portion sizes of the meals when you were eating them and stuff?
I felt they were voluminous. Like, to me, it's definitely not like a diet feeling at all. I mean, I thought they were decent. In fact, I felt like the turkey chili, for example, which I make a lot. I'm trying to introduce that to my parents who I'm staying with right now because it's so good. My boyfriend calls it crack, and he doesn't have a weight problem, so he'll eat a lot of it. But I feel like the way I multiplied it makes so much more. Like, I feel like with that one particularly, like the serving size is actually more for me than like it's big to me.
Like you don't even need it all.
I don't. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's been the consensus, because that was my goal. I'm a big volume eater.
Mm-hmm.
I really am. Like, to this day, you guys, I've been maintaining 5 years, and like I feel like scared if I feel like I might run out of things to eat. Like I might have to stop eating before I go to bed. Like, that's scary for me.
I think we're all like that a little bit. I think
Yeah,
we're
no, I mean, I'll be like
like
kind of panicky, like a little, I don't know.
yeah.
So for me, like finding ways to create volume to meals while still being able to maintain and not having, the calories or the macros work not well with your body, that was like the key important thing, honestly, when I was planning the program. And maybe not all women are like that. Maybe some can eat like a reasonable or a small amount more easily without feeling trapped, but since I can't, like, that was kind of my goal. So as a result, sometimes the meals are actually too big at first for people when they first get into P3. And I always tell the ladies that you don't have to eat the full serving. Like if you get satiated and full, then by all means just stop there and save the rest for later if you get hungry again or whatnot. But so I'm glad that they were big enough for you. So
Yeah, they were like actually perfect. I mean, and I really think, because I don't know if you got any assistance with recipe creation, but if you didn't, I have to say, you are a chef, like brilliantly speaking. It's amazing.
Oh, okay. I know I have to stop you there because, okay, while I had a huge role in the planning of like choosing this is the recipe that will be created, like here's the name, maybe some of the main ingredients, I had a recipe developer that I hired. So I am not a cook, so I have to make sure I give the proper props here. So I selected like the way the calories increase and just the macro layout, like the protein content and all that, like that was all kind of more the science aspect of it is what I planned. But then I had an amazing recipe developer. Her name's Jenna. I just want to give a shout out to her because
I want to high
she's,
five her. She's
yes,
awesome.
no, she is. Like because I made every single recipe that she created, because it was tons of planning and back and forth with each other, because she makes recipe creation for all sorts of companies and blogs, and a lot of them are more paleo and ketogenic in nature. Mine is actually really more of a high protein program, has a lot of low carb vegetables. So I was very specific about like what I wanted, and sometimes we would tweak stuff like, okay, this one that I felt like the serving size wasn't enough, or the protein's not high, so we would adjust stuff. But what I made every single recipe that she created so that I could both taste it and make sure that I was, like I liked it. And also because I photographed everything. I did all the photos. So I had to make it. Yeah. And when we actually started with week 3 first, because it was like kind of the higher calorie week. So I thought that would be an easier week to start on. And then we would work our way down to week 1 where like you don't hardly have any calories to work with, which was like kind of scary. And yeah, the first one we did was the fish taco bowl.
Oh, that's so good.
I
love
know.
it.
And then after that we did the Thai meatball dish thing, and I about died. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazingly good.
Yeah, it makes you feel cool too, because when you make it, and if you have anyone else look at it or taste it, like I've been Instagramming. I think that's how we reconnected,
Right,
because
you're right.
I kind of was showing off. I've never cooked like this in my life, so
Awesome.
and people are asking for the recipes, so I just don't tell them anything because I'm like, well, unless I just advertise your program, I should just put a little link. Like I actually did that. I think I'm like, oh, I got them from this program. But
They're
yeah,
gonna be like, what's HCG? Maybe I should like repackage it as just like a eating thing without HCG involved, and they can just eat it and be happy.
yeah, I should just like be your spokesperson or something on there, because yeah, no, the recipes look so good. Like you are very artistic and your photos look awesome, but
Thank
they're
you.
an accurate representation of what the food really looks like when you make it. Like
Aw.
I am not a presentation person, and the recipes look like that, and I'm just like, wow, I can't believe I made that, and it tastes
Aw.
amazing.
I'm so
So,
glad. Yeah,
did
I
you?
think I'm so glad that they taste good. Yeah, I was the same way. I was so excited that they were like that. I used her specifically for the creation of that whole program because I'm working with a number of other developers for some of the P2 recipes, but she was the sole one that I worked with on this. And I was just so pleased, that it kind of met all of the goals. It was like taste needs to be there, you know, the calories and macros needs to be there. It's like there was so many little parts to it.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
good.
brilliant.
What
Yeah.
were a few of your favorite P3 to Life meals?
So the fish taco bowl that you mentioned, I hope I don't botch the names,
That's
but
fun.
that was great. There's the curry that's in week 1.
Oh, the Indian curry one. Yes.
Yep, the Indian curry. The chicken and shrimp jambalaya.
Oh, yes, the jambalaya one. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So that's another one my boyfriend referred to as crack. That
Nice.
makes me feel good because I'm like, wow, he's all about taste. Like that's the only thing that will drive him eating. He can go without eating too, but yeah, I have a fan now. So that the turkey chili for sure. My personal favorite is a breakfast. I really love the bacony egg cups.
Cool.
And I want to show them off, so I'm going to make them for my parents as well.
Nice. Those are nice too, because like they can keep and you can, just have them around almost like as a snack.
Yeah, they're so easy. And and the steak and cauli rice. I think the recipe for that is like Spanish cauliflower rice.
Yes.
It's so good.
Cool. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm glad. That's awesome. That is so cool. So were there any positive results from following the P3 to Life program that were maybe like unexpected or surprising for you, I think is what I was wondering.
Well, I guess let's see, physically speaking. So one thing is that because I didn't have the strongest P2 program because I did it in a weird state of mind, kind of not thinking it was going to work. So I had sweet candy sometimes during my P2. So, and I would stop. I took a break. I had a very weird P2, so it's not really good I don't recommend this to anyone. And in fact, I think it might have been dangerous. You in one of your interviews alluded to, if you don't do the protocol right, it could possibly do damage. It could have done damage with me because I had a fibroid that grew this year, doubled in size. Who knows if that has to do with what I did with HCG? I don't know. But I think because behaviorally, I didn't set myself up super great during P2 because I was violating it often. I actually violated P3 sometimes too. So while I was doing your program, sometimes I would have a very small piece of chocolate or a carbohydrate in a small amount, and it didn't affect my weight. So
that's good.
Bad to admit. I don't think, but somehow even beyond the 21 days, my weight really did stick until the week of Thanksgiving, and I really lost my footing.
Lost your marbles, huh? So before you lost your marbles, how many weeks then were you being stable after P2?
Was about 2 months of not moving at all.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome. So 8 weeks in there.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I mean, truly, it makes sense why I gained, because I was looking at my FitnessPal breakdown, and I had been eating enough calories that it was normal. It would have promoted weight gain in any human, and it's leveled off. I just haven't done anything significant to go back down to my 139.
Sure.
And my ultimate goal is 125-ish. So I'm going to do it again. And this time, because with your P3 program, I did I violated it sometimes by having a sweet. Sometimes I did the build your own meals. So I think next time I do it, because there's so many awesome recipes you have that I haven't made yet, I want to do it to a T. And
gotcha.
As an experiment too, so I can tell you. But I know it works because it works even with some deviations that I do.
Right. No, that's great. Well, sometimes it does come down to the 80-20 thing probably too. It's just if you're doing enough good things that keep things in balance, then oftentimes, a little deviation here and there may not be a problem. So I'm wondering then a couple things with the build your own, because honestly, that I really only added because a few people didn't want to cook. They were like, this, I don't want to cook, so I was like, okay, what do I do for members who don't want to cook, or sometimes can't cook? Because I understand life is busy. It's I go back and forth between, it's when people do Whole30, for instance, you have to cook. You can't not cook because you have to eat whole foods. So So I get the whole aspect of like, okay, you just have to like commit to it and make time in your life and just do something different. And then, you know, and then something good will come out of that. You don't have to do it that way forever. So I feel that way to some extent, but at the same time, I have a regular busy life too. And I get tired. And I think in those moments, like I can understand, like you need to have sometimes a plan where you can just have something super simple, like the plain chicken breast and some simple veggies or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just because otherwise maybe you're just not going to be able to do it. And that's just the reality of it. So that's kind of why I ended up putting together the build your own plan, just so that people would have kind of like a layout of macros and calories with some simple just eating ideas. So
Yeah.
how did you end up utilizing that? Like, were you following like the calorie and macro layout when you utilized it, or what?
You know what? I think I more used it as like, let's say I realized I wasn't going to be able to, like, usually I work from home, but there are some spontaneous times where I have to go into the office,
Yeah,
the headquarters. And sometimes I don't have time to plan for that. So if I'm like, all right, or I have to be in a meeting in the field and I won't be able to microwave.
right.
So that gave me a guideline of feeling like I'm still doing P3. I could
Good.
throw together something and maybe not cook it, like, you
Right.
know, and also for the breakfasts, sometimes I just felt like eating eggs and maybe it wasn't on.
Yeah.
So I use some of those.
Yeah.
So I just sporadically put them in. I see the
Sure.
value of the batch cooking though. I'm with you. I think it even just to give it a try, because I amazed myself of how good I felt, like holistically. I think it was
Really?
healing, like because it teaches you how to eat as a normal person. Like I don't know about other people listening to this, but personally, and sadly, like I have a background. I'm kind of trying to be somewhat anonymous, but like, I have a health care background, and so it's not that I don't know the science of nutrition, but I don't think I've ever eaten like a regular person. And so I feel like P3, aside from just the benefit, maybe this is something, because you had asked me, what might you be surprised about? I think I went all around with that answer, but how you can kind of learn how to just reintegrate or integrate for the first time into like a normal, happy, healthy way of eating. And like happy, I felt good. Like I could eat this P3 lifestyle forever and not feel deprived. And maybe, one little wrinkle to add, because my memory's not super. Part of, how I told you I gained this 3-4 pounds, part of that is actually because later on, maybe in November, I tried thinking of other ways of, okay, what am I going to do going forward, because I still do have a weight loss goal. So I actually deviated from the P3 P4 way of life, trying to follow more of like a Food Addicts Anonymous type of plan. And to be honest with you, that type of plan, which is very regimented, you measure and weigh all your food, eat 3 times a day, that did something that reverted my brain back to how I was before, as in like
Huh.
now I felt super deprived, and I actually started eating more. Some sort of rebellious thing kicked in, and I started eating more carbs, because you're supposed to avoid all sugar, all flour, and I guess including things like corn tortillas, they consider that to be flour.
Yeah.
So it did something negative in me. I think it's amazingly positive for other folks where it works really well. But I actually, I really diverted from P3 P4, and I started thinking like, you know, wow, I found something that really worked for me. It's kind of strange that I would consider to do something else and think, I kind of got pulled into what I thought would be an awesome other program to keep on going with, but it really wasn't. So I think that, I kind of found my home in eating. I really like your plan, and so now I really should do a correction and get myself back, but I'm going to do a whole nother round and kind of just stick with it. And,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you for sharing that story. I appreciate that a lot. And I'm wondering, because I actually do understand where you're coming from about like certain things getting awakened in you. And like if you feel too deprived or something is, then it creates this other feeling that's bad. And then you end up doing what you wouldn't have done if you hadn't felt that
Yeah.
way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm curious with this other like plan that you were thinking of or that you were trying out. I mean, because like the P3 to Life program, for instance, doesn't have flour or corn tortillas or sugar either. Like
Yeah.
so what was different? Like what's different about the food with P3 to Life versus this other thing, do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, one thing I think that I like how you plan it out that the people are eating 4 times a day. I think that works very well. And it works well if you're exercising. Because part of why, the other thing that I tried is like 3 weighted measured meals split up about, the same. And it's very small portions.
Okay.
Um, but also, I guess, it just, the way the feeling is totally different. So like with your plan, I feel like I can integrate into a normal way of life. I could give a party, I could cook for my boyfriend and we could eat the same food. And I feel like I'm not tripping. I'm not thinking about like, the things, I'm not obsessing about food. Whereas even though the like kind of like the Food Addicts Anonymous or probably in OA too, I don't know how that works really. The idea is that if you're weighing and measuring all your food, you're not thinking about it anymore. But maybe I'm weird in that I actually start thinking about it a lot more. And then
Yeah.
I guess I enjoy exercise, and the fact that it like the portions were so small. I mean, I couldn't even fuel my activity. So I felt like it kind of got me more into the diet mindset again, but like
Wow.
a failing model of it.
Wow.
Um, and also that food plan contained carbs in a more regular fashion than I think my thyroidless body can process. So there was a lot of things. I think more though it was psychological. Like I didn't feel like I was eating like a normal person,
Yeah.
and think I think, for some of us, maybe for myself at least, like I would like to feel like a normal person and just kind of not obsessed in any type of way. And so with your plan, I really didn't feel like I was so chill, just enjoying the process, and
Cool.
I could have stayed there forever. So I don't know why.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. I'm sorry to keep like bugging about this, but I'm
Uh-huh.
just so curious about it, like trying
Yeah.
to figure out what's different. Like, so what, like, so you said the portion sizes were small and like, what was the food? Were they actual recipes or was it just like really simple combos of like, what were you actually eating? Like,
They don't recommend recipes. They want very, very simple combos. So like,
okay.
for breakfast, you get a certain portion of a protein, a grain, and a fruit. For lunch, again, a very certain weight portion of a protein, a cooked vegetable, a raw vegetable,
Okay. So
and
pretty much just like
like
steam
that.
this much broccoli and this many grams of
Hmm.
lean protein and, or something in a fruit or,
Yeah, yeah, and
okay.
it's all by weight ounces, and it's
Everything.
yeah,
Do they actually like tell you exactly like what to do, or they just tell you pick a protein this much,
yeah,
or
pick a
do they tell
protein
you
this
what?
much. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so it's like 4 ounces of protein, and you pick which one.
Oh, do you know how many calories, like with the portions feeling small, like you were supposed to be
I mean,
consuming? Or?
yeah, I looked at my fitness pal when I did it. I did
Yeah.
it successfully a couple days. It was in the 900s. So people certainly lose weight. And if you can automate and like get, in a pattern of that, many people are successful and they stay in that supportive
Yeah.
group and because other people are doing it, so I don't want to knock it for folks who it like
Sure.
works
Yeah.
really well for. But for me, I physically was not able to sustain my activity, and it really did the opposite. Like I had black and white thinking, like,
Yeah.
for and it's weird because I have no problem with portion control. And like, let's say for your recipes, if it says there's 2 portions or 4 portions, I have no issue wanting more. Like I'll, break it down by the portion. But
Yeah.
somehow, I guess the intention with this, it just activated a strange way of thinking for me that I wasn't balanced at all.
Yeah. Do you feel, I'm just curious, do you feel like something being a recipe that has like taste, like all the spices, do you feel like that plays a role in like whether you feel satisfied with a portion or not, or
I
what do
think
you think?
so. Like your recipes are really flavorful, and also, I mean, they do include swerve or stevia, which
Right?
that's not allowed on the plan
Gotcha.
that I was mentioning.
Right.
Um, yeah, and also, I feel like it gives a healthy structure for if you were going to make up your own meal within the boundaries. I think you would feel more confident to do so knowing you're still within the parameters of P3. So I just feel like it builds confidence.
Cool.
I think it's very realistic and it's very like pleasurable. Like the
Good.
work that it takes to cook your food, which is what you would have to do anyway if you're cooking something that wasn't healthy, let's say.
Yeah.
Um, that I guess you could say is work, but you're putting it into yourself, so you're nourishing yourself. And I have
Yeah.
absolutely no time. Like I work over 12-hour days. So it's not like I'm like
Wow.
home and chilling on the couch, but it was so worth it to learn that skill for myself and like take care of myself for the first time in my life. I learned that from your program. I really have never done that for my own self. Seriously.
Aw, I'm
Yeah.
so glad to hear that. And I'm
Yeah.
glad too that you mentioned that, like, that you work full time, you work 12-hour days, like, so, because, it can be challenging to fit in. I mean, this is kind of a new endeavor, really,
Hmm.
that you're doing. Like, so how did you, like, I'm just curious, scheduling wise, like, mentally, how did you think about it to make the time to do it? And then I'm just curious about, like, how you ended up scheduling wise, like cooking.
Yeah, I mean, I was scared at first, to be honest. I was like, oh my God,
Right.
how's this gonna work? But and I don't, there's a problem with our oven. So I actually bought like a convection toaster oven to make all the
Oh,
baked recipes. So I was really learning how to use that, and everything was a learning curve, but I planned most of the batch cooking to be on Sunday.
okay.
And then I did some on like Monday and Thursday. So I kind of broke it down. I try to have some days where I wasn't cooking.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So when I do it again, though, I'm going to experiment with maybe doing all of it on Sunday because I think it
Okay.
would make it easier, more
Yeah.
sustainable. But I also found that as I got used to doing it, it took less time. So the first week, I took longer in cooking and prepping because I felt like, that was like
It's
my
new.
elementary school week. And then
Hmm.
as I got used to it, I've gotten a lot faster and more efficient. And I can bust out that turkey chili in no time. Like it's so
Good.
easy now.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because like you said, it is a learning curve, and it's good, I think, to know you guys, for any of you guys who do become members, um, to remember that like like your first week or two, maybe the length of time, if it takes you more time, like, don't think it'll always be that way, because like you said, it's like it's kind of getting up to speed. I had the same experience actually with learning to shoot food photography
Oh
and
yeah?
the recipes. Yeah, like, so at first it took me forever to do different aspects because I was so new and I had to think about everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like, so, I mean, my mind, like, I'd go to bed and my whole brain just felt inflamed because I was like trying so hard to learn so many things at once, but
Yeah.
now, I mean, it's now, so much of it is second nature for me, and I can
Yeah.
get a lot done for the same amount of time. So you just have to give yourself time to adapt to this new kind of thing. But once you do, it's going to become a lot more second nature, and even be enjoyable, I think.
Yeah. I think so too. Like it
That's
did
cool.
not feel like work. I'm like excited. I brought your recipes. Well, I screenshotted them and sent them to my dad so he could pick which ones he wants me to cook. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, like it's become fun, for real. So even being an extremely overworked person, So
It
yeah.
worked. But you do have to make time, of course, which you did. So that's awesome. And it's good, it's worth it to do that. It's funny, you just talking about like how certain things affect our brains differently. I've talked about this on a couple other interviews actually, but I had signed up for a program to try to lean out a little bit as well, and they work with a lot of CrossFitters. So
Hmm.
that's why I signed up with them. And I didn't last long because because it was the same thing where I had to like track my macros and like meet this certain goal, which was basically
Yeah.
supposed to make me lose a little weight, but it was actually eating like 500 calories less a day than I'm used to eating for
Yeah.
maintaining. And I'm like, whoa, that's a big cut for like a small person like me. And I emailed them like kind of concerned. And they're like, well, don't worry, we'll adapt it, but let's just stick with this at least for a week and see. And I felt really deprived, and I wasn't happy. I just, and yeah, having to track every little thing. And I just realized like, this is just not good for me mentally right now. Like
Yeah.
this isn't good.
I'm with you. And thank you for legitimizing me in that, because sometimes I'm like, wow, like, you see other people doing just fine, but I think maybe depending on what our own personal experience is with
Yeah.
eating and food and our bodies, it can kind of trigger things like negative
Yeah.
things sometimes,
Yeah. And I know too, like you said that I don't think you got really around to trying the smoothies and stuff, but like you guys in the plan, there's these like dessert smoothies, and they're like really low calorie. Like some of them honestly only have, like, if you don't do the topping, it would probably only have like 30 calories, but it's like this big thing. But they're really good. And that's because I have that thing where like I need to feel like whenever I want to eat, I can eat something. Like I
Yeah.
have to be, it doesn't have to be, as long as it tastes good, like I just, and you can only get away with having so many handfuls of pecans. So, because I've done that too, and I get myself in trouble really fast, so
Oh, your
yeah.
photos of them though are so amazing. Like I
Oh,
want to make all of them. I
good.
guess, like will say for the folks that haven't done it yet, like your meal plan itself, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner are sustaining enough that like if you got tired and you didn't make the smoothie at night, like you'd be fine. But
Yes.
it feels so like decadent and cool that you can have one of those every night. Um,
Good.
so I think, yeah, if they can see your photos of them, like they look so good. And the ones that
Yay.
you keep on adding more menu items like different weeks so that we get more recipes, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like Christmas. And then you have all these new recipes that look so good. So I don't
Oh,
know, I'm
I'm
excited
so
for
glad. I know,
that.
it's funny. I keep meaning to be done. I was supposed to be done with 6 weeks. And then I decided to add a seventh, which is already up in the members area. And then I actually just recently decided to add an eighth week just because I have like these
Wow.
ideas for other meals. And I just like, oh, but we just got to do these. And then the
Yeah.
entertaining meals, there's about 3 entertaining menus right now. That was kind of like decided later after the program launched. I was like, oh, that would be fun if there was like something that you could have over people, like more entertaining type stuff. So anyway, I don't know. It is fun. It's fun to do. And I love doing the photography. I just enjoy it. And I'm glad that it makes you want to make them too, because I think we're very visual people.
Yeah. They look
And
like mouth watering. Like you could make a commercial and people would go out and buy them if they were sold somewhere.
oh my gosh. Well, it's just funny, because I think, I don't know, the way I've seen things has changed over time. But I just realized that, because, it's like, obviously, you're not probably going to garnish every meal with like a fresh cut parsley or something. Like, because there's little
Yeah.
things like that that make the meal look pretty, or like, making it look just right. And so I think I used to think that it was like, well, that's just like a fake misleading thing. But I've realized it isn't, because when I see pictures, that don't look appetizing, because yeah, we don't make it all look so beautiful and enhance the colors and make it all perfect, but like if you see it in a picture, you just don't feel particularly moved to
Hmm.
make it. But when you see something that looks really yummy, then you're moved to make it, and then when it actually tastes really good, it's like that's what gets you to actually make the food and eat the
Yeah.
food.
Yep.
So otherwise I'm just gonna grab a banana or some pizza or something. So,
Yeah.
well, good. Thank you so much for all of that, Nikki. I really appreciate all your input. And I just think I'm so glad that you had a successful P3 too, doing that this time. And then it was different from prior. What do you think is the big difference between, I know the one time you said you ended up overeating, but I know you've also done a couple P3s since then. So what do
Yeah.
you think has been the main difference between, having P3 to life and being stable versus kind of not having that before?
I think because when you're done with P2, your like mental state of reliability, like in terms of, I guess, your resilience of being able to sustain yet another way of controlled eating, I think it's depleted because you've been
Yeah.
for like 3 to 6 weeks or more trying to concentrate on depleting, decreasing what you'd normally eat and being very specific, even though I was totally rogue and off in a bad way. But still, I
But
think
you were trying, like mentally you were there every
yeah,
day telling yourself, I can only eat chicken and fennel today.
yeah, yeah. So you come from a not so strong mindset to start another sort of plan, and then you don't have a plan. So I feel like, in a way, we're sort of setting ourselves up for failure with P3 unless we've ourselves created a plan. Truthfully, in the past, I did create myself a plan for P3 using my one pot wonder ideas. I wrote it out for myself, and it was on
Oh,
one piece of paper, and it was so boring. I didn't want to eat my own food. I really didn't. And I think I just went, you know, first, after that first experience of gaining all the weight back, my confidence was lower. So I did a poor second round of P2 months later. And I think mentally, I just have really lost faith because I'm like, man, you know what? I don't have a thyroid. It worked once. How could I do this to myself where like I didn't sustain it? So I didn't really have the mindset of success in trying it again. And so I don't think my P3, I didn't have the mindset of, success again. And I didn't lose that much weight. Like I think I lost like 7 pounds. I mean,
gotcha.
I really don't even know. I did such a poor P2. but
Gotcha.
but yeah, I think essentially the difference with, my tries at P3 were that they weren't wholehearted, and I was alone. Like I feel like your program, because it also has coaching, so you can hear someone talking about P3. You could make a curriculum for yourself where you're like, all right, I'm going to listen to one video per day, even if it's about something like, blending a smoothie, even if I'm not going to make it. Just, I want to hear someone's voice talking about P3 today. I feel like that's supportive. So there's the support, and there's also the trust. So I did not trust myself at this point at all. And I knew that you had done the research of painstakingly, like you went through, you can see the macros, the calories, like everything broken down. It's so I have no questions. Like I could have no doubt in my mind that this is going to work. And for someone who's used to doubting themselves, that's huge. Like, yeah, I feel you gave me that security that, okay, the effort I'm going to put into this is actually going to do something. So I should do it, like, so I had a better mindset before starting P3 because of that.
Cool.
Um, and just the way you line it up, and also because it's so exciting, so you don't feel like you're limiting yourself yet again, like it's been 6 weeks and now here you are being on a boring diet and you're hungrier because you're not an HCG. No, with your program, it's like you're kind of like a gourmet chef eating this amazing stuff. The pictures look good, so you start getting excited about trying new things. And there's more material in your program than I've actually been able to go through. Like there's so many videos that I have to listen to that I want to listen to.
Sure, yeah.
So it's like all this support and materials that sort of keeps on building. Um, I just think it's beneficial in so many ways, but like really concretely, you planned it in a way that someone can feel confident that they'll keep their weight off. And then when they actually start to do it, they'll see like, wow, this process is fun. Like it doesn't feel like a, restriction or a punishment. You're not limited. So yeah, I really love it. I think you did a brilliant job with this.
Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm just so glad to see it working for you guys. Like, and also I think for me the biggest thing is just that like I appreciate so much that you said that you would feel happy eating like this long term,
Hmm.
because I think that's what we're still left wondering before, like you know what I mean? Like even in P3, like we're left wondering, well, how can I eat long term that I'm not only maintaining but that I'm actually just happy eating this way?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just always stuck in a cycle of dieting or kind of eating in a way that you feel like you probably shouldn't, and then maybe gaining some weight, and so then you're planning your next round, and you know what I mean, like, and I just feel like there's just like this constant cycle, because I think it's so important to find a way to be mentally happy with like a way of eating that works.
Hmm.
and it's been hard to find that before, you know?
Right on.
So yeah. Oh, good. Well, thank you. I appreciate all that. That was really good. So I hope your next round goes good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. Yeah, and I mean, it's totally like you said, it's like we learn from everything. So like you mentioned, you gained a few pounds around Thanksgiving or whatever, you know, and it's like it's just a learning experience. I feel like all of that stuff. Like I've had that happen before too, and corrected it, and you know, but you want to get a little lower anyway, so it makes sense to do around. And yeah, but yeah, it's I'm so glad that it worked and that you feel more confident, you know, with what you're doing now. So
Thank you. No, thank you so
yeah.
much. And when I do it again, I'm gonna do it more to a T. So I'll
Yeah,
report
I'll be
back.
curious to hear your input on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you say that you actually used the P2 workbook also? Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
How was that for you? Like, I'm always curious.
Oh, it's awesome. I am gonna use it again. I re-downloaded the device one, so I planned it out. I'm gonna start the day after Christmas, so I planned it a little bit early. No, I think your workbook is great. I love using it because it's nice to have a template to put to track your journey in. I also like tracking my weight and my inches in there. So and I
Cool.
love that now you have it electronically because I had the book, um,
Gotcha.
and then so in total, because I've had failed rounds, you know, I've done two books. I did your full book, and then I did I guess the refill.
The refill book. Okay, so those ones were on
Yeah.
Amazon, the hard copy ones. Yeah.
Yep. And then I did the device one.
Did you
So
actually print it out, or did you actually fill it out on the Adobe app thing?
I'm using Adobe on my phone.
Oh, you are? I'm always curious, like
Yep.
how many people are printing it versus like trying to fill it out on the little app, or, you know, I want to
Yeah.
clarify too for anyone who gets the workbook. Um, First of all, it's at hcgchica.com/workbook. And basically it's the digital version now, which is what I sell on that site, because then you can reuse it over and over forever, which is great, you know. But there's a printable version and a device version, and the device version, like, you can use with a third-party app. And I know not everybody knows what that term means, because like sometimes people get confused and think it's like my app, and they're like, I can't get it, like how do I do it, like it's not working. And I'm like, I don't have an app because that would cost like $30,000
Oh my
to make,
gosh.
so
Yeah.
I can't do that. But if you get like this Adobe app on your phone or tablet, the book is then designed so that all the fields, you can input your data with the fields right in your iPhone, or you know, so I show you, I have tutorials on it and everything, but it does require, like, it's not my app. So anyway, but so you are using it that way. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. It's so easy because I had trouble. I mean, I've changed jobs since I did my first round, but I'd be on the subway a lot, and I wouldn't want to bust out my books. I didn't want the people next to me to like look at what I was doing.
Yeah.
So with the phone, I can input my data and notes anywhere, and I can save it, and I could keep, you know, like this time when I do it, I'll have my last round. It's saved in my phone, so I can kind of
Perfect.
look back and compare.
Compare.
It's super helpful, and that's how I have my P3 experience, all my weights in a list, because it's in the device form of your workbook.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much. We've talked about so many things today. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. Really appreciate it. So
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you and meeting you on
yeah.
video. I think you
Aw,
do awesome work. So thanks for what you do for all the HCGers out there.
thank you.